Hello and welcome today to Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone. We have a lot of great stuff we're going to talk about today. First up, as always, welcome Mayor Concannon. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Samantha. How you doing?
I'm good. I've recovered from the snowy weekend and all the snacks that come with Super Bowl. I will admit I'm not a know a lot about football, but I know how to eat well during the game.
Yeah, it wasn't really much of a game. It was kind of a blowout, but yeah, there was plenty of food to be had in my house. So we enjoyed the night. Didn't really have a dog in the fight anyway, so didn't care much who won, but it was fun anyway.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. It was fun to see my nephews and my kiddos and my husband and enjoying and laughing and having some fun. So I
Yeah.
enjoyed that portion of it. I know we had a lot of snow. My dog Luna was out there rolling around, making a mess, actually having a blast. It was kind of the perfect snow for her. Does Snowfie like to go out there and play a little bit?
She had a ball. She got distracted by the snow, so those freezing cold morning potty breaks turned into 45 minutes of rolling in the snow. But no, it was fun. I was out shoveling and she was out helping me, so
I
it was
I
good.
love it. I love
Yeah,
helping. That
this
was a good choice of words for that.
yeah. She helped
Uh,
as much as my kids used to help.
I have to admit, this particular storm, I didn't lift a shovel in any way. I was pretty grateful. The timing of it worked out. Everybody was home, and I got to delegate that responsibility to others this time. So,
That's good. Yeah, the timing was helpful, and as always, the DPW did a great job.
yeah.
Timing helped. A lot of people were off the road, gave them a chance to hit the roads aggressively, and by the early afternoon, everything was down to pavement. I took a ride around the whole city. It looked great.
Yeah, I agree. They really did a fantastic job. One of the things that always comes up every time we have significant snow, like we did this past weekend, is sidewalks. We know that, and we've talked about in the past, the city isn't, unfortunately doesn't have the resource. It is not responsible to clear all sidewalks across the city, but I thought it might be helpful just to remind people where we pay our most attention and where we put our resources, and we hope others will, take care of other spaces in front of their homes and businesses.
Yeah. So in terms of the DPW, the primary responsibility, of course, is the public ways, the major roadways throughout the city, and they do a very good job in that. Obviously, they're going to pay a little more attention to Main Street, Lexington Street, Montville Ave, Washington Street, School Street, the main thoroughfares. But they also do, I think, a great job on the side streets. When it comes to sidewalks, the ordinance is pretty clear about what specifically is required. And, the efforts of the DPW in conjunction with the property owners, it's essentially downtown, clearing the sidewalks in a defined area from roughly Salem down to High, down to, you know, uh, just beyond the library here on Pleasant Street. That's where you'll expect to see the most attention in terms of DPW removing snow and shopkeepers and property owners responsible for clearing the sidewalk. Obviously, we encourage all people in town to try to do their best to clear out the sidewalks in front of the houses, the fire hydrants. It's a community effort. But the DPW also, of course, pays attention to the roadways leading to and from the schools, so we can make sure that the kids who aren't taking a bus and are walking to school have a safe path to school. And we work closely with the school department on that to make sure that there's a path and the kids can make it safely back and forth. So between downtown, the schools, and any other highly traveled areas, you might see the sidewalk plows out there. But to your point, it is limited staff. There's only so many resources. They do the best they can. I think they do a really good job.
Yeah, I agree. They do a great job. My road looked fantastic. They were out there all night during the storm, keeping the roads clear for folks. So we're very
Yeah.
grateful, as always. I want to just switch gears a little bit. There was a new state law that went to an effect just last week, I believe. Accessory dwelling units. Our neighbors, Winchester and Burlington, have, put out their local process for the applying that, to apply that law. And I know that Woburn has been working on that. Thought it might be helpful for us to just people talk about ADUs, just give super high level, what is an accessory dwelling unit and where are we in our implementation of that new law?
Yeah, so this is a state law that was passed that basically requires communities to allow accessory dwelling units in any zone where a residential single-family home would be allowed. So it's a pretty dramatic change in the way things are done. And again, it's a requirement from the state. It's not an opt-in, opt-out kind of thing. Every community is required to allow these accessory dwelling units. And there's actually a definition. Self-contained housing units um, with a separate entrance, no larger than 900 square feet, subject to additional restrictions imposed by communities, but those have to do with setbacks and utility hookups. The main point is that these are allowed by right in residential zones. And basically, what you're talking about is two kinds. Either the traditional in-law apartment with a separate entrance in a single-family home, or a standalone, uh, you know, mini house in your backyard also would qualify as an accessory dwelling unit. So it was something that was decided at the state level, mandated by law, and the communities were given until February to come up with their interpretation and their implementation of that law. We formed a task force here in Woburn, and they're ready to present their recommendations to the full council. Of course, any change like this requires legislative action here in the city. So we've had this task force operating for a few months now since the ADU law was first proposed, and they've done some good work in trying to figure out how best to adapt that law to the needs of the city of Woburn. So I expect their draft to be sent to the council, if not the next meeting, probably the meeting after that. And again, the state law was pretty prescriptive, what should be, and then there were areas where we could weigh in on specific needs to best fit our community. So they should start hearing more about that publicly. There'll be, of course, public hearings on the matter, and residents will be allowed to come in and speak their mind. And again, understanding that it's a state law, we're really just talking about the implementation here at the city level.
Great. Thank you for that update. We've been getting a few questions about it. So, and speaking of progress and building, I thought it'd be great to just give a quick update on 6 Common Street, which is City Hall Annex, which is the building right next to City Hall that we'll be occupying. I think at this point we've determined who will be in that space, and we're actively working, and that'd be a great
Yes.
opportunity to update all of our audience.
Yeah. So again, grateful to the city council for their support in purchasing that building, the old Martini Insurance building next door. Perfect spot for a city hall annex. We've been outgrowing this building for many years now. Anyone takes a trip through City Hall, you can see how crowded it is, and people are setting up shop in closets and almost sitting on each other's laps. So much needed space. We've put together a committee. It's a subcommittee of folks throughout City Hall to determine the best use of the facility and how to make it work. And that committee has recommended, and we're proceeding with placing the building department, the conservation department, and the engineering department over into that space. Work is underway now. The folks in the DPW have done a lot of great work to get the space ready. A couple of subcontractors are coming in to do the finish work. The target date to move those 3 departments over to 6 Common would be April 1st, thereabouts. We're beginning the special permit process so we can actually occupy and use the building per the zoning code. So I expect that to go to the city council, hopefully at their next meeting while this work is underway. And if all goes well, we'd like to see those 3 departments in that space beginning of April.
Fantastic. I know it'll be a welcome opportunity. And once they're in the space, it also will allow within City Hall some additional expansion of some offices and things that are really crammed, some more space to
Yeah.
interact with residents and storage of, important materials that we're obligated to keep. So overall, great to see the progress. Thanks for giving the update.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too. We'll be able to spread out a little bit more here in City Hall. We're not adding any departments or moving anybody in. We're just allowing those currently here to spread out a little bit. You might see a shuffle in where some of the offices are located. That's the next step of this building subcommittee to try to determine the best use of 10 common when our neighbors move over to 6. We're actively doing that right now. And again, you might see one or two departments move from one floor to another or next door. We'll try to do that seamlessly, and we'll make sure people have a heads up so there's no confusion or surprises. So again, that should all happen right around early April, I would think.
Yeah. One thing I just wanted to note for those who might not be familiar with it, the space that we're occupying is largely, we're reusing almost everything that is there. There were some things we were obligated to do to make it ADA compliant and to be able to have a bathroom on the first floor and things that, so
Right.
residents can be allowed into the space and we can serve them there. The work we're
Yeah.
doing is not sort of luxury things. It's just things to kind of get it to a place where we can welcome the public.
Yeah, and make best use of the space. As you said, there'll be a ramp out front, the ADA compliance, and public restroom on the first floor. Unfortunately, the only bathroom in the building right now is in the basement. So those changes are being made as we speak, and then we're really just adjusting where we put counters and desks so that the building conservation and engineering can better serve the residents when they visit over there.
Great. Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate your time today, as always.
Thank you, Samantha.
Excellent. Next up, I want to welcome Elissa from Woburn Welcomes.
Hi, Samantha. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining me. We have, there's a lot of great things that Woburn Welcomes does for the community. And one of the things that's coming up is a drive to help add supplies to Tanner Closet. And I thought it would be helpful just as a reminder for those who might not be familiar with what Tanner Closet is.
Yes, absolutely. So Tanner Closet was started by a teacher at the high school, and it lives at the high school, and it really is a resource for students at the high school so that if they need food or clothing, really anything, not only in school but outside of school, to help them just sort of support them and their families. It's available, it's free, so they can go and sort of shop there and get what they might need.
It's great. And I know that it really survives on donations. My understanding is that regular clothing, it's actually pretty well stocked at this point, but there are some things that supplies are running low. So tell us what things will be accepted this drive.
Absolutely. So this is, I can't remember, maybe the fifth or sixth year that Woburn Welcomes has really supported Tanner's Closet. And in the past, it's been clothes, and people have been very, very generous. So generous at this point that they don't need any more clothes. So really, they're looking for non-perishable food items and snacks. So things that kids might be able to eat in school, like a granola bar or breakfast bar, maybe a juice box, but also things that they can take home. Some of the kids don't have food, for dinner, maybe on the weekend when they aren't in school and getting lunch. So macaroni and cheese, pasta, sauce, canned soup, peanut butter and jelly, cereal, oatmeal, things like that that are just really easy for them to cook. Toiletries, sorry, there's a whole other two other sections. So toiletries, toothpaste, toothbrushes, any sort of soap or body wash, deodorant, feminine products, paper towels, toilet paper, things that need there. And then gift cards. If you're just not sure what you want to give them, Market Basket, Stop and Shop, Family Dollar, and Target are all preferred gift card sites.
Excellent. Thank you for that reminder. Those easy ways for us to support. And I will, mention some of those personal care items, feminine hygiene products, deodorants, and actually can get quite expensive over time for folks. And so when you're sort of making ends meet, just supplying that can really make a difference in someone's week.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is true.
That's excellent. So remind us where the drive is being held.
The drive is at the library, so 45 Pleasant Street. It's in the program room, which is in back, so you can bring your things in and sort of mingle and talk to people. But we will be standing at the windows and the doors. So if you just want to drive up, somebody will come up and get you whatever you're bringing and bring it into the library. And then at the end of the night, there are a bunch of us who will drive it over to the high school and leave it in the office.
That's fantastic. What time is that?
It is from 4:30 to 6:30.
Excellent. I don't think I asked you specifically the dates, so let's make sure to put that out there as well.
February 25th. So
Excellent.
hopefully some people are there with their kids. We thought that would be a great time where we sort of get the adults and some of the people with the kids.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on and for doing this. I hope that lots of people were able to contribute either donated goods or gift cards, personal care items, even just, go check out the closet, see what you've got stashed away. I joke about this, but this is really serious. Last year's drive, I had an enormous amount of hairspray and I was cancer bald. So somehow I had gone to BJ's and stacked up and it probably could have lasted me 6 years even before I went bald. So I was grateful to empty that out and give it to a good cause, all unused things that were brand new and could certainly be used better than I was able to at that time.
Absolutely. And it can be one thing. You don't have to go and buy an
So,
entire case of something. If you just have something you want to contribute, it's all very, very helpful because some of the kids there aren't other ways for them to get it.
yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
For having me, Samantha. Take care, everybody.
Excellent. Next up, I want to welcome our school committee chair, Ellen Crowley. Welcome, Ellen.
Hello, Sam. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you've worn this chair hat before, multiple times, I believe. And so welcome back.
Yeah, this is number 4.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't realize it was 4. In my head, it was 3. So,
Well, there was a double.
because of yes, because of the timing of COVID and pandemic and all the changes there. That's right. So you got a bonus one that
Yeah,
time
it's
round.
definitely a bonus, Sam. Yes. It was.
That was the word you would have chosen. I know. Well, we're grateful. The chair actually has a really important role and does a lot of extra time and extra effort and things that come up. And one of the big things I know is top of mind for you and many people across the community is redistricting. And I thought that this would be a good opportunity to just take a moment to kind of talk a little bit about where we're at in that process. I will say over the weekend, I saw a couple of people in social posts asking questions about redistricting that made me realize some things I had never thought of before. For example, they had high school students and they were thinking redistricting might move people out of Woburn into other cities. If you weren't familiar with this and hadn't had an opportunity to read a lot of the things that have come out in detail, I can see why that term might mean that. So let's just start with real basics. When we're talking about redistricting right now, what is it that we're actually talking about?
So redistricting is redrawing the line. So right now there is a set amount, there is a set zone for each school. And those zones are no longer modern, they're no longer working out, they're antiquated. And so we want to redraw those lines. Obviously, since we only have one high school, the high school is not going to be impacted by redistricting. So it's going to be like there's certain streets, and those streets feed into the Harold Wyman, for instance, the Goodyear, the Linscott, and those are going to be redrawn to match the population growth that we're currently under.
Excellent. Thank you. Is it still true? I know it was true at least a few months ago that overall the schools are not overcrowded, but we do have some individual elementary schools in particular that have some crowding and some non-ideal situations.
Yes, I think that's still accurate, although there is a space constraint in the system as a whole. There are open seats in certain schools, but not certain grades. So we are very squishy. But the 3 impacted schools continue to be the Goodyear, the Malcolm White, and the Harold Wyman.
Okay.
So there are open seats, but we are pressing. That's what I want. If I can get anything out of this interview, I want people to understand that we have a space issue, and it doesn't matter how much we slice up the pie or redistrict the lines, we are still running out of space.
Okay. Now, I know a survey went out to parents to collect feedback about redistricting goals, and I think I've heard really good things. I happened to see the survey. My kids no longer go to the school system because I'm old and they're old, but I still was really interested by that, and it seemed like there's some great information that was collected, and I didn't know if there was any big takeaways from that you'd wanted to share out with us.
Anytime something is shared out, when you are telling the public that we're making this big decision and we're giving the public and parents and maybe even kids the opportunity to react to those decisions, then we're doing the right thing. Then we're involving parent voice when we make these extremely difficult decisions, and just giving them that pathway to us is the right thing to do and is the most productive thing to do. I would say class sizes are an enormous concern. Being geographically close to the school that you're currently attending was a big deal. Just this equity piece. So you have some schools that have larger class sizes, other schools with smaller class sizes, and really looking at that as a whole, diversity, making sure that all of our elementary schools are benefiting from the wonderful diverse community that Woburn now has. And really, I guess the right word is evening things out so that everyone is benefiting from this amazing system that we have.
That's great. Now, we had Jesse on last week, and we talked a lot about early childhood programming, and we won't go in, sort of belabor the same thing, but there is a relationship between the ECP and redistricting and what our needs are. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about, can we do these things in parallel? Is it one before the other? How do these things relate to each other?
Yeah, that's it. So the early childhood program is one of the factors that's causing our spacing issue, because we actually we have certain spaces for our ECP learners, but overall the ECP learners in our district are in K-5 spaces. And so ideally, educationally, if we could have a separate space for the ECP learners, then that's ideal, educationally, space-wise. And I agree with everything Member Wetzel said, that one of the solution that she came up with through her task force, and by the way, just to go back to the ECP task force, that is a huge benefit to the school committee. Having that staff input and parent input was phenomenal. And Jessie Wetzel running that just gave us so much information. She was amazing. So the ECP's task force recommendation was to actually have modulars so that we could pull out the ECP learners out of the system and then use that extra space to create better learning environments for all. So it is very much related it's interrelated, actually. So
good. Now, I know we did a little bit of a start and stop with the redistricting conversation at the end of last year. I know that work has been done between then and where we are now. There has been some people have, written it and said, geez, it feels like we missed most of the year and we're sort of back where we were last year. I don't think that's an accurate reflection, having sat through a fair number of school committees, but I understand where that comes from because, recommendations haven't yet been made. And so I thought it'd be helpful for just talk a little bit about the difference between the process we're going through now and what we were doing last year. I know we're working with different folks and it might be helpful. And I'll just say this up front for everything. I know the school committee has exhaustive conversations about this, and someone who really wants to dig deep on this topic, I would encourage them to look at past school committee meetings, attend ones that are coming up. You guys are doing a great job. It tends to be people who don't have kids in the school system. We do still care about it, but we may not be attending those meetings and seeing it. So I appreciate you coming on here and kind of keeping all of us informed.
Yeah, last year we spent a lot of time on the why, because when you bring up something as drastic as redrawing lines, and I would say it's probably one of the most drastic topics that a school committee can deal with. And when you start talking about it, people start feeling very nervous. And so we had to spend a lot of time making sure that we're documenting exactly why we're doing these things and why we're causing this much discomfort. And I think this time around, we don't have to focus too much on the why. I think we've made the case that we have children in non-traditional learning environments like the hallway and the stage, and we need to correct that problem. So I believe, there's going to be some people, and by the way, I invite all the voices, everyone that feels things about redistricting to reach out to me in the committee. But I think we do at this point have a consensus that it is necessary. Now, the question now becomes, how do we draw the lines without causing so much distress on our learners, without causing too much of a burden on our families, but also to meet the needs of the district as a whole, and of course, to advance student achievement. How do you do that? And that is what the committee is going to be looking at over the next few months.
So I admire the goal of balancing all of those things. I also just am a practical human being, and I recognize that it is literally an impossible task for everyone to walk away happy and not feeling disruptive when you're doing something like this, because the only way to not do disruption is to keep things exactly the same way. And there are lots of families whose students are in non-ideal situations right now, so we don't want to leave them in the lurch either.
Right.
So it's a really hard job. I don't envy it that you have. What are some of the ways you're looking to help address what is this really difficult spot we're in, which is we have to make some change. You've made that case. We know change is hard. How do we meld and mitigate it as much as possible? What are some of the things we might be doing?
You know, we have principles. We have principles in mind, right? What is exactly are we trying to get out of this? Well, one might say, well, we just want to cure the space issue. Someone might say we need a separate space for the ECP, so we have a dedicated learning space for early childhood learners. Some people will say it's the diversity that's drawing it. But this is the thing, is that every school committee member is talented, intelligent, and smart, and they will gather their own data of how to make this decision. They will come to the table and they will make that decision, and they will make it very well. And I believe in every single one of our members that has the talent and the intelligence to do that. And it's through public dialogue. It's through, in education, you make all your decisions based on data, right? So every member is going to do their own thought process. Every member is going to bring their own individual expertise to the table, and we're going to have very different opinions. But at the end of the day, that's what a public body does. And I have full faith that we'll be able to do it. We'll come to a good decision that will advance the needs and advance student achievement in the Woburn Public Schools, and we'll be better off for it.
One of the things I know Jesse has talked a lot about and the committee has overall, and I think we've seen some improvements in just general engagement and communication over the last couple of years in terms of with the public is no matter what the change is, right? It will be making sure everybody understands what it is, how it impacts them,
Yeah.
and is given the tools necessary to get their children ready for change if, where change is necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think our goal, excuse me, I shouldn't say I think our goal. Our goal is to have a redistrict plan done so that it gives parents ample time to visit their new school. While school's in session, I know that was a factor people wanted to see, and it will be done. I have to remind the public that the school committee in the budgeting process, sometimes we don't know the final answer to that until June. So we are very used to dealing with these somewhat gray areas of these not having the right answers, but this is going to have a very structured process to it. Tomorrow night is the first time that the parent advisory board meets. A parent from every single school is going to be represented, and they're going to be able to talk to the consultants that we have, and the consultant is going to lead the meeting, and everyone is going to see, it's going to have different fingerprints than just your elected officials, right? So that in itself is going to create a more productive environment.
Excellent. Now, I would love to keep talking about redistricting because I'm naturally curious about complex problems, and this is a complex problem. But I will not do that to belabor it because I know there's lots of avenues for people who want to dive super deep on this topic. But I do know that it isn't the only thing that is a priority for the school committee and our school systems this year, although it may be getting a lot of the attention and some of the angst that goes with that. What are some of the other things that are priorities from your perspective?
Well, I think the next priority after this is really starting to look at the buildings. So we have 4 aging buildings. I was chair of the building committee, BCPC building committee, building and capital planning committee. And we came to some recommendations that the committee really needs to look at. We have 4 aging buildings that need action, and we delayed it. We put it in abeyance until after redistricting, which I think was a smart thing to do. I recommended it to the committee. But I think after that needs to be priority numero uno. And, of course, we are still a school district that is progressing and dealing with the changes in our demographics and changing in the way in which we learn, and our learners are drastically changing. We still have an ongoing mental health crisis and social emotional crises in our classrooms. And public education is always hopping. And just because we're redistricting does not make everything else go away. So we are a very dynamic school system with a lot of priorities.
Excellent. Ellen, thank you for joining me today and, and always being, open to asking and answering questions. I know that the community overall cares a lot about the schools and our families and our teachers and the staff and everyone who sort of makes that engine run. We're in the heart of winter, but there's many more weeks of school left. And I know, we just had a snow day. Hopefully that doesn't push us into a longer school year, but I know everybody will be ready for what's to come.
Can I just say one more thing, just because you mentioned something, but there's a lot of stuff going on the federal level right now. But I am getting the most beautiful, compassionate emails from our constituency about taking care of kids and making sure that our kids are okay while these things are happening on the federal level. And the school committee is going to be engaging in listening sessions with some of our learners in the high school level, just to make sure that they're okay, so they have that two-way communication. So if anyone's wondering what the school committee is doing to deal with some of what they might disagree with on the federal level, there are some plans in place to really take care of our learners and make sure they're okay. I just wanted to add that because I know that that's just an important thing for me to say.
Thank you for adding that. I appreciate it.
Thank you for giving me the time to do so.
Yeah, excellent. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure, Ellen. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then we do have our Community Resource Center, which we've talked a little bit about on the show before, has its open house this week on Thursday, the 13th. I couldn't be more excited to welcome people into that space. We are now taking appointments, and we have a schedule of exciting events that are coming up to help serve our community. So I look forward to hearing that. You'll see our producer will put on the screen the location on the website where you can see our current hours of operations and how to schedule appointments. And hopefully we're making it as easy as possible. I'm grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for you to help let people know that this resource exists. And we'll do an episode of Today in Woburn in a couple weeks that gives you a tour for those who weren't able to make Thursday, although I hope to see many of you there. In the meantime, Woburn, please continue to take good care of each other.